morning. I'll call to order the regular Board of Directors meeting of the Harris-Galveston Subsidence District. Today is Wednesday, June 10th, 2026, and it's just after 10 a.m. in the morning. Thank you all for being here. And please join me with the pledge of the
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 2 on our agenda is the oath of office, and I believe we have one director reappointed to be sworn in, Ms. Alvarez. Welcome back. And Madam Prescott, if you would do the honor.
Good morning, thank you. Ms. Alvarez, I'm going to read the oath. Would you repeat after me, saying your name after I?
Yes,
I,
ma'am. I, Patricia Alvarez,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully execute
that I will faithfully execute
the duties of the office of
the duty of the office of
Harris-Galveston Subsidence District
Harris-Galveston Subsidence District
Board of Directors
Board of Directors
of the State of Texas,
of the State of Texas,
and will to the best of my ability
and will to the best of my ability
preserve, protect, and defend
preserve, protect, and defend
the Constitution and laws of the United States
the Constitution and laws of the United States
and of this state,
and of this state,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Thank you. Will you sign the oath?
All right, congratulations. That takes us to item 3 on our agenda. We have a public hearing on proposed amendment to the district's rules. Mike, you want to give a quick description of the proposal, and then we'll allow any members of the public to comment?
Sure. What you have in front of you today is the proposed amendments to the district rules. These proposed amendments come out of discussions and things that we've learned through the regulatory plan review, and discussions that we had in the boardroom and regular meetings over the last few years. In particular, they focus on our groundwater reduction plans and the information provided to the district on the status and progress of the groundwater reduction plan. So there are 2 primary amendments that are being added to the rules in this proposal. One, it requires the GRP managing entities to provide a status summary on the progress of the groundwater reduction plan as part of their annual permit application. And it requires permittees as a condition of addition into an already approved groundwater reduction plan to provide a plan detailing water conservation and efficiency measures to be implemented until alternative water supplies are made available. Now, the GRP status report must provide details on the achievement of the groundwater reduction plan goals, including within their GRP that was approved by the board, including identification of any substantive changes to the infrastructure requirements to meet water demand, status of timing of projects and plan conversion, identification of any changes to funding sources or contract status, and status of alternative source water availability is planned. The expectation of the district on this is that this is information that should be readily available. It's not intended to be a large document or a large report, but simply a summary included with the annual application that would provide us with some measure of status of their ongoing plans and any issues or advancements they made.
With that, I guess I should officially call our hearing to order, and I'll invite any interested person to give us comment on the proposed rules. Ms. Rowell, I have you as actually the only person who has signed up, so please come on up and let us know what's there.
Good morning, Chairman Petroff, members of the board, and Mr. Turco. I've got a question regarding proposed rule 5.2H4. The proposed language appears to require annual reporting on the status of groundwater reduction plans, including achievement of goals, project timing, infrastructure changes, funding changes, contract status, and alternative water availability. Would staff clearly clarify whether this new reporting requirement would apply to existing groundwater reduction plan holders when they renew their permits? And you may have just addressed that. If so, would entities such as the regional water authorities be required to provide annual updates on their progress toward groundwater reduction plan goals, including project timing, funding, contracts, and alternative water availability? And I believe you may have just addressed that. It sounds like you're just looking for a summary and nothing extensive. Would that be right? If a GRP holder is behind schedule due to factors outside of his control, how will the district use that information? Does it affect the district's evaluation of compliance? While reviewing the proposed amendments, I also reviewed rules 5.3 and 5.4 regarding permit compliance and permit amendments. I hope it's okay if I touch on that.
It's not part of the public hearing. But you can address that in public comments if you want.
I'll move to public comments then. Okay, so thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much. Is there anybody else in the audience who would like to comment on the proposed rules? Do we have any written comments that were submitted?
No worries.
All right, then, with no further comments, I'll close the public hearing, and that will take us to our agenda item number 4. Accept comments from members of the public. Ms. Rowell, you're back out. So at this time, we'll accept comments from any member of the public on any subject under our purview. And Ms. Rowell, you're the only person who's signed up, so please feel free.
Thank you. Good morning again, Mr. Chairman and members of the board, staff, Mr. Turco. First, would the district please review the microphone volume and audio quality during the meetings? It can be difficult at times to hear speakers at the dais from the audience, and the recordings posted on the district's website can also be difficult to hear. Improved audio would benefit both meeting attendees and members of the public who listen to the recordings later. Also, regarding agenda item 9, can staff...
You a minute, are you talking about when you're sitting there in the audience, it's difficult to hear?
You can hear when you're standing, when people that are talking right here. But all of you, the recordings, you can hardly hear. Thanks for...
But it's during the meeting, not when, or are you talking about when you're listening to the video?
Mostly when you're listening to the video online.
Thank you.
But some of y'all do talk loudly.
All right, sorry for interrupting.
That's okay. Regarding agenda item 9, could staff clarify when the public hearing on the proposed permit fee increase is expected to occur and what fee increase is being contemplated? So back to what I was mentioning earlier, regarding, I was reviewing the proposed amendments and also reviewed rules 5.3 and 5.4 regarding permit compliance and permit amendments. Rule 5.3E requires immediate written notice when withdrawals exceed the quantity authorized by permit. Could staff explain what process follows that notice? Is there an opportunity to discuss the circumstances or otherwise address the overage? Rule 5.4 states that it's a violation to pump any amount over the amount authorized by permit, and that permit amendments must be filed before withdrawals exceed permit limits. Does the district use calendar years or permit years when calculating groundwater overages and disincentive fees? That leads to a broader policy question. Has the district ever considered whether a permit holder's long-term compliance history should be taken into account? Just as an aquifer doesn't know county lines or district boundaries, it also doesn't know calendar years. A permit holder might exceed their authorized amount in 1 year, but still be below their authorized amount overall when viewed across several years. If the overall groundwater withdrawal remains below the permitted amount over time, I'm curious whether the district has evaluated how that relates to its groundwater management and subsidence reduction goals. For example, if a permit holder remains below their authorized amount for many years and exceeds it in 1 year, is that treated the same as a permit holder who exceeds their authorized amount every year. Does the district provide any credit or consideration for that underutilization? Has the district ever evaluated whether multi-year averaging could still achieve the district's groundwater management goals while recognizing long-term compliance? Thank you very much. Again, I'm Melissa Rowell. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other members of the public who wish to speak?
Can the general manager address the questions that were brought up, public input? Because I remember there were some things we addressed years ago about a 4-year permit and we ran into problems with that. And Mike can probably explain, what the history of all that is and how that works.
And again, in general right now, but I will get with Ms. Rowell and get those questions specifically, so I can address those individually. But the district did look at multi-year averaging, as a permit consideration several years ago, was prior to our joint regulatory plan review. At that time, we determined that modeling the impact of that, required an improved model, to do that. I think we probably have that now, we could revisit that. But one of the things that we do have, that all the GRP holders are allowed, like when they go beyond the conversion requirement, they are no conversion credits, they can then be used if they end up short. Also, regional water providers, when it comes to amendments, fall under the permit reconciliation process, which allows them to actually exceed their permit, without actually filing an amendment. With that consideration, because they're a regional water provider, so long as their allocation stays within the requirements. So there's provisions in the regulatory plan that specifically provide relief to large regional providers in that regard. But I'll get with Ms. Rowell and get those questions specifically and get some answers to her.
Maybe include that in your general manager's report to the board next time.
Yeah, I'll provide those back to the board as well.
Yeah, I mean, Ms. Rowell, you raised several good points, and we've thought about many of those, and many of those are actually addressed in how we operate now. But Mike will deal with you.
Thank you.
All right. That will take us to item 5. Approval of the minutes of the regular board meeting held on May 13th, 2026.
Move for approval.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion needed concerning our minutes of our last regular board meeting? Hearing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor of approving the minutes of our regular board meeting held on May 13th, 2026, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Item 6, receive our hearing examiner's report and consider granting, denying, or amending applications for water well permits heard in May 2026 and prior. Madam President.
Good morning, thank you. We have prepared and submitted the report for those persons who made applications for permits for water wells or that request for cancellations or modifications to current permits for the public hearing that was held on May 12th, 2026. There are no revised recommendations for this report, so we make recommendations as they are in the report, and we can receive any questions at this time.
All right, did any board members have any questions regarding any of the report? Then, do we have a motion?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. Does anybody need to abstain concerning any of the permit applications this month? Any further discussion needed? Then I'll call for the vote. All in favor of approving the report and recommendations, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 7, consider emergency permits reviewed by the general manager. Looks like a slow month. As the board knows, these items don't actually require board action, but allow the board to see what's come before the general manager in the last month and if anybody has any questions, this is the opportunity. So, any questions regarding either of these items? All right, hearing none, we can move on. Item 8, consider a resolution approving the proposed amendments to the district rules. So, we had this item just now as a public hearing, to hear any public comment. We got some public comments. What's the board's pleasure? To consider the item now, or to think about it and bring it back?
So moved. Second.
Okay, I take that as a motion to approve them now.
Yep.
Any, discussion needed on any of the items in the proposed rule?
I'd like to know what happens if somebody doesn't comply, or their compliance is less than satisfactory. What do we do? I mean, again, this is not in here to try to penalize people or make this worse. On the other hand, information is valuable and powerful. So walk me through, somebody just doesn't submit something, or somebody submits something, it looks like it's done by a third grader. What do you envision the district's response would be?
Well, this is an additional requirement that we haven't asked for before.
Right.
So I fully expect that during this first round, there's gonna be a lot of give and take on us providing them information and maybe going back and forth on kind of what we think we would like to see in that document. And we are planning on providing a guidance document that gives them some little bit of direction. But ultimately, if the report comes back with, we're not on track, we're not getting things done, we're not gonna make it, then it'll start a different conversation that says we need to revise your plan, we need to look at your plan, we need to figure out what the next steps are.
So we have the ability unilaterally to start that process.
I think this would identify that and allow us to do that. It's important for the board to remember that the groundwater reduction plans are a mechanism within our regulatory plan that was determined by the board. It's not a statutory requirement or anything that we have to do. And we worked with all of our GRP entities, we have a couple dozen, I think, out there, that, we worked with them and ultimately approved their plan. If the plan isn't getting that particular entity to where they need to get to, then this status report should give us some visibility on that, and we'll be able to work with them to see if we can modify their plan, update their plan, get them working on a way to mitigate that kind of our timeline. But to your point, it's not intended to be a gotcha thing, it's not intended to be something that immediately puts somebody in a compliance situation. It's meant for us to have some visibility beyond just their compliance with that annual permit on the long-term status of their GRP. Now, ultimately, if the board determines that because of the status that we're getting and the lack of, let's say we're getting a response from the entity, or there's something like that's happening, the board always has the ability to put that GRP holder on notice and ask for additional information, and ask for a revision, and ask for, and ultimately unapprove that GRP. That would be the end of the line for that process.
Yep, is it 30 of them or so, almost?
21.
Yeah, it's about 2 dozen. So I do expect this first year to be one where we kind of work through this process and figure out exactly what we need. Again, it's not intended to be a big lift or a burdensome thing for them, and honestly, it's hope. The intent is to get information that they're already doing on their own, and just put it into the record so we can have that documentation and know that their plans are on track.
So the idea is, this is something that can be done in-house internally, they're not gonna have to go hire engineers or experts or somebody that.
They say that some of them don't have in-house folks to do that, so they have consultants on staff, and it's gonna be an extra task for them. But I expect that those, as part of their normal, I would think that part of their normal reporting out, they're gathering this information already, presenting it, so it might just be a compilation of what they've already presented to their board, that are managing it.
Okay, so now, what does the rollout look like? So we approve this today, you guys work on something, get it out to the 22, are all of their reports due on 12/31, or is it a rollout deal depending upon their permit years? What does that kind of look like in terms of
So right now, the intent is to get some guidance information out to the permittees, to the GRP managing entities by the end of the month. And then with the expectation that, once their next permit comes due, the applications go out about 3 months or so ahead of the actual permit. So there'll be a notification and that reminder that says, hey, you gotta add this, and the expectation would be that they would include that. All of our permittees, I say all the GRPs aren't all in 1 month, so they kind of scatter around the year. So we would, the goal right now is to have this part of their next application. If it turns out that for whatever reason that's too quick, then for them, then we have the ability just to make it part of that application, stuff like that.
So there's not 22 showing up in the email box on day, whatever.
Right, yeah, no, we have the large authorities in Area 3, with the exception of the city of Houston, are all towards the end of the year. City of Houston is right at the beginning of the year, right around there too.
And the west.
What's that?
And the west.
And the west, yeah. So I think that, the other small ones are kind of scattered throughout, so.
The majority have already also renewed their permits. So we're getting toward the end of the GRPs that are ready to renew, so most will have plenty of time to pull their information together.
Yeah, but if we get, say for example, we get feedback from the authorities, which are the next ones coming up, right? The authorities' applications, their reminders will go out
Soon.
September,
Yes.
yeah, somewhere in that neighborhood. So let them know, and we think that that's probably enough time to get this done, but if for whatever reason it's not, then.
Could we approve this as a temporary 1 or 2 year change, which would then force it to come back to us to make it permanent? And then we can review how this has gone, all those things that you were talking about. If it's bad, then, we don't renew it. If it is good, then we renew it as a permanent change.
See, we can always go back and do that.
It's bad, you go back and change it.
Yeah.
Well,
We don't need temporary rules.
I think it gives people a little feeling of confidence, or make the users feel a little better to know that, hey, if this isn't working, it's not gonna continue.
I don't think we heard from one user today, 23 others didn't comment. I think it's just a summary of what we're asking them to go do, so, yeah, I mean, hopefully it's not a burden to go put together where your plan is, and how you're meeting with people, of course it is, so. Others have entities, we'll hear about our work with them, that's my take on that. We can always back and change things.
If you tell people it's temporary, they're just gonna ignore it. I mean, just do it or don't do it, one or the other.
And those who take the time to structure and plan accordingly, that they're actually penalized for people who choose not to, follow those guidelines. Because they've voted resources, and they've taken the time to structure how their districts run.
Right, but that's what we wanna see happen, and if all we do that, then we would make it permanent.
I think we don't have any reason not to make it permanent.
One would hope that they're already reviewing your process to make sure that they're coming up to the standards. If not, then we should know that, in advance, so.
This creates the transparency.
All right, any further discussion needed? Then I'll call for the vote. All in favor of approving the proposed amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, please say nay.
Nay.
All right, the motion carries with 1 vote. That takes us to item 9, consider a resolution calling a public hearing for the purpose of hearing testimony regarding a proposed increase to the regular permit fee.
So, the board approved calling a hearing for this purpose. The last meeting, however, the information that was attached to it included additional things that weren't part of the original board action. So, just to be as transparent as possible, brought this back to you all to be clear on the purpose of this public hearing. The public hearing is to hear testimony regarding the proposed increase in the district's regular permit fee. The proposed increase is from $26 per million to $28 per million. The guidance for that has been included in our budget for many years, but in our long-term projections. To bring that rate down to what most people in the public see on their bill as part of the bill in thousands, that's 2.6 to 2.8 cents per thousand is the change in our regular permit fee. The hearing is going to be held on July 8th. As part of our regular board meeting, just similar to the approach that we took today. And all this does is call the public hearing. It doesn't tie the board into any action beyond that. And this is saying that there is no impact to the 2026 budget as far as the timeline for incorporating any changes to the district fees for 2027. This change in timeline by a month does not impact that.
All right, so, do we have a motion to, call our public hearing?
I move to approve, call the public hearing.
Second?
The motion is second. Any discussion needed on that? We'll call for the vote. All in favor of calling our public hearing, which will be at our next regular board meeting in July, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. That takes us to item 10, our general manager's report.
Good to see you all again, welcome to summer. Happy that we got to that part of it. I just want to mention a couple things today. We did wrap up our school program and for this past school year, and overall, I think we reached just shy of 32,000 students throughout Harris-Galveston County. That's a 12% increase over the number of students that we reached last year, so that's great. Our Water Conservation Symposium, which is scheduled for October 22nd, 2026, is going to be held just down by the Baytown Nature Center. Process is ongoing for the development of that. We got a pretty good program developed, and we also just recently put out a call for sponsors. So if you got an entity or anybody who's been sponsoring, please pass that along. Sponsorships are open here for a few more months. You may have noticed in the media over the last month that there was a lot of discussion about results from the annual groundwater report that you approved at the last board meeting. We were able to get a lot of inquiries related to that. We did a morning show on KPRC. We had KPRC in-house where staff were able to provide them additional information. Several media outlets, KPRC, ABC 13, we have a special segment on the morning news, KPRC, Houston Public Media, and many others. So that's great. It's really, I mean, it's a testament to the work that we do here and have done here over the years. That information is incredibly valuable, and I've gotten a lot of inquiries direct to me about the information that's shown in that report. And in case anybody missed it, there's large areas of subsidence that we see are in those areas where groundwater is still the primary source of water. So working to that end, and part of the work that we've done today with the GRP, I think helps us get to that overall goal. We've got a lot of rain lately, which is great. It was dry for a long time. So you see in the report that I took the drought monitor out and put the reservoir status in. And I think the interesting thing to note there is that most of the reservoirs that serve alternative water to our area are near conservation pool, which is great. The one thing to keep in mind, and I know we've talked about it because it's in the news quite a bit, the ongoing water issues in Corpus Christi. Unfortunately, with all this rain, their situation hasn't changed all that much. So you see that on the map. But anyway, I'll include that information when it's wet, and then we'll go back to the drought when it's a drought. But like I said before, every good drought ends in a lot of rain. Region H is in the process of starting up their next round of planning. They're actually looking at they've had request for qualifications for the consulting engineer who helps the Region H develop that plan. And they'll be working through that process during their next meeting on July 1st. The Groundwater Management Area 14 recently approved their DSD. It does not include the subsidence metric. And the 90-day comment period began there on April 30th. So we expect there to be some public comments on that moving forward. With that, I have included some additional items in the MTM report, including some funding opportunities that have been announced by our Rowell board. If you have any questions on that, let me know. There's a links in there for more information if you know anybody who's interested in getting some more UAVPD funding. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
So I got a couple. On the water conservation, the presentations that the interns made, can somebody get those to us? Are they videoed, are they papers, what, I would be interested in looking at that.
Yeah, Denise or Ashley, do you want to come and talk about the presentations that were made by the interns as part of that program and provide additional information?
Sure.
Yeah, come on. Big smile.
Hi. So the presentations for the students, we had 4 students this year. Unfortunately, one of them dropped for the first cohort, so we had 3 presentations in total. So their presentation was composed of what they learned through the program. So basically, the different green infrastructure projects that they did throughout the internship. I was able to present to them about subsidence, and they were able to visit Baytown Nature Center and learn about subsidence and see the change that has happened over the years. And they also presented on that as well, so there was a component in that presentation. They also had a project where they had to implement one of the green infrastructure projects at home. And it was really interesting. One of the students did it for 4 years, all 4 years since 9th grade. And she's implemented a project every single year. And we were able to see that progress as well. So those were some of the presentations that we had. This current cohort that we have a total of 6 students. So I'll also be able to see those presentations as well.
So, were they videoed, or they just made an oral presentation, or?
Yeah, it was an oral presentation with slides and pictures that we had.
And can we get these 2 kids off the wait list and put them in the program?
Yeah, so I can get with you later on and see.
Get with him, he's the guy that writes the checks. Is it a budget issue, really?
So, at, the summer cohort, they had a cap of 10, and so they were able to hear back from 6, and then, so I can talk to the coordinator and see. Yeah. Any other questions?
Any other questions for Mike? You have anything else for us, Mike?
That's all I have for you today.
All right, thank you very much. Item 11, consultation with our general counsel. Greg, do you have anything for us?
There's not a lot to report. On the litigation side, the GBRA case has moved out of discovery into the motion stage. So we'll see how that goes for the Gonzales district. The contested case hearing proceeding at the San Patricio Groundwater Conservation District involving the Evangeline Laguna applications for 22 drilling permits that they hope to sell to the city of Corpus Christi has moved from preliminary hearings where 3 potential parties may become parties, and it's now moving into the full evidentiary hearing phase. The city and Evangeline appeared before the district on Monday asking that they adopt or approve emergency or temporary authorization to begin drilling those wells in advance of the contested case hearing, with the understanding that they would not produce any water from any of those unless and until the city went into stage 1 restrictions, and also with agreement that if they ultimately were denied those permits, that they would plug those wells. The board of directors came out of closed session and made a motion to, because they don't have any rules allowing for adoption of emergency or temporary permits as we do here. The board there came out and said we can't do emergency permits without those rules, so there was a motion to instruct me to draft up those rules for consideration by the board, and that motion died on a 2-3 vote. So there won't be any emergency rules, there won't be any emergency permits. I was a little surprised that none of the board members moved to postpone that decision to September 1st, because Corpus Christi recently voted 7-2 to postpone their decision on the desal plant to September 1st. And although they couldn't have built it in time to relieve any problems they have, they've now predicted they're gonna be out of water by December. The recent rains pushed that back from September to December. They obviously can't get a desal plant built between now and December, but they've also been working on it for 15 years, and they keep flip-flopping on whether they're gonna build it or not build it, and so that's where that stands.
Is that flip-flop existing members, or do they vote people in and vote people out, and so the flipping and the flopping changes with the?
It's been both ways. The most recent flip-flops have been with the current council. And the postponement was primarily, I believe, I can't in the minds of the council members, but I believe it was primarily because they had a group of environmental scientists who said that the brine discharge from the desal plant was gonna cause so many problems for the bays and estuaries that they needed to be better addressed or further addressed, which could be done as they proceed with the plan. The solution to that is build a longer discharge pipeline. You put it further out into the Gulf, it's not going to be a problem for the bays and estuaries. But that's expensive, so, if we wanna make sure we don't cause any environmental problems for the bays and estuaries, then somebody's gotta pony up the money to pay for that. In any case, the San Patricio District is gonna move forward with the capacity assurance process. I'm still hopeful that the protestants and the applicant can reach some sort of agreement and bring a resettlement to the board. And because unlike most of my clients, that district issues the production permits based almost on a pure relative basis. Meaning, if you own, as this is the case here, they own 24,000 acres of land. Therefore, they got 1.25 acre foot for every acre of land. That's a 28,000 acre foot production permit. That permit was issued 7 years ago. So to say no, they can't drill a well to produce that permit is going to be problematic. Now, where they drill those wells, how big they are, what their rate of withdrawal is going to be, that is contestable, and that's something that needs to be looked at. And the main protestants there are the city of Sinton and St. Paul Supply Corporation, who are on the very southern end of the property, and roughly 8 of those wells would be very close to where their wells are with running water. A third protestant is a nearby irrigator, and his biggest concern is whether or not that's going to cause saltwater intrusion to come into his well, which would make his well unusable. I don't know, Mike can probably do this better than I can. I think once you have salted up a well, there's not a whole lot you can do to fix it. And I don't think there's deeper wells, deeper areas they can go to where they're gonna find fresh water.
Deeper.
So, that is, although they have a subsidence concern, the production in San Patricio around there has not reached the level yet where they're seeing any real subsidence. I think they need to start monitoring for better than they have been. It's hard to see subsidence when you're not checking. But, that hasn't been the big concern. The big concern there has been water quality, and the reason that Corpus Christi doesn't have a groundwater supply of its own is because that water is so bad quality that they would have to put through reverse osmosis to be able to utilize it. Which is another option, but then again, if you do that, you have to put the brine discharge someplace. And that's one of the more expensive. The reverse osmosis is very expensive in terms of energy. Brine discharge is equally expensive. It's another big concern. And by the way, there's a desal plant going in for the Brazos Port Water Authority that's very near the end of the Brazos River. And their plan currently is to discharge the brine into the grass river. And we'll see how that works out. And we'll also see what happens with them producing that salty water down there and see whether or not they end up causing a subsidence bowl in that area with such a large amount of production. Legislative news, the House Natural Resources Committee is going to meet on the 23rd of this month at 10 a.m. in Austin. They've got a number of their interim charges on the agenda. Most of them are invited testimony only. The big one, of course, is one on data centers, water use and conservation. And that they're taking public testimony on that, so that could go into 3 hours the next morning if the public shows up and wants to testify. Last night at the Gonzales County Underground Conservation District, there was a permit that is suspected will be for a data center. It probably is, but they didn't say that in their application. Part of the problem with the application is they kind of need to specify what the industrial use is. They can't just say it's for industrial use and not tell us for what, because we can't. There's a way to justify the amount of groundwater, we don't know what you're using it for. They've asked for a total of 990 acre feet, something like that, right, between two wells into two different formations. And we had an hour of public testimony about how terrible data centers are, and not just the water use, but the noise they cause and the vibrations of the ground that occur. And one woman testified that the vibrations will keep songbirds from singing in the morning, which will keep the flowers from opening, which will keep them from taking in carbon dioxide and allowing them to create oxygen, and we all need oxygen, so we don't need data centers. That reminded me of some of the high school debate briefs that I wrote. I had one that, the affirmative claim was gonna cause death because it was gonna lead to witchcraft, which would lead to priests, a lot of people being turned into frogs. It was ridiculous argument, but it was fun. When I had a student judge, I always pulled that brief out, because the student judges always enjoyed it. That concludes my report, unless you have any other questions, but I haven't seen any Senate committee hearing set until September. We'll see if anything pops up between now and then. And none of these Senate committee interim charges have really addressed groundwater directly. They do talk about data centers. We'll see what they do about that. Happy to answer any questions. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you. So that takes us to the last item on our agenda, the executive session. I don't think anyone is necessary. Ben?
You almost got it.
Last month you all approved a settlement, with the Ortega couple, and I want to let you know that they have already paid the full amount that was due based on that settlement, and the remaining lien has been placed against the properties with an agreed judgment, and they have already asked about how they can make payments to pay off that lien. So that I think worked out exactly the way we needed it to.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for the update. And with that, our meeting's adjourned. Thank you all for being here.
Oh.